My name is Dena Daniel, and I am a senior editor with Cambridge University Press. One of my favorite things to work on as an editor is video. So this presentation was very fun for me to put together and work on, and I hope that you find it interesting too. So we'll go ahead and get started. Here we go. This presentation will take a look at some of the basic principles around using video content in the language classroom, and we'll look specifically at the pros and cons of YouTube content. I'll then share how Cambridge University Press is working to make it easier for teachers to use video effectively in the classroom, and end with some recommendations for further reading on this topic. And we'll definitely take questions at the end. Okay. So this quote is from the book Language Learning with Digital Video by Ben Goldstein and Mr. Driver. I don't even know his first name, but and it really captures the ethos of today, that video is becoming the preferred medium for entertainment and information presentation, and the chief cultural resource for many young people. Now, remember when we used to talk about how we had different types of learners? There was the reader type, or the listener, or the kinesthetic type, and the visual learner. With digital video content everywhere now, it's becoming clear that everyone is a visual learner to some extent. And research shows that visual aids of all kinds improve retention and comprehension. But more than that, students today simply expect video content to be part of any educational experience in their schools, at home, anywhere they go. But just because video is the preferred medium and because it's expected doesn't mean that any video will serve. The key is to find video that supports learning, both inside and outside the classroom. So questions about the best uses of video are by no means new. In fact, in the introduction to that book I mentioned, The Language Learning with Digital Video, Goldstein and Driver, they go all the way back to Jane Willis in 1983 to her work. And Willis identified 4 main uses of video, and they're still just as relevant today. And they are language focus, skills practice, stimulus, and resource. And we'll look at each of these in turn. So when video is used for language focus, we typically mean that it's used to model the target language. And commonly that's grammar and vocabulary, but it could be any aspect of the language. One of the advantages of using video is that it can show examples of language in context. Platforms like YouTube are full of content that can be used for this purpose. Here's a clip from the popular TV show Friends, and the language is around giving advice, and it's highlighted, you should, why don't you, etc. Now, the most obvious skill that can be practiced with video content is listening. And that can be listening comprehension or specific skills like predicting content. However, videos can also be used to help set up speaking activities by providing a model for things like role plays and presentations. For example, you could start off a class on giving directions by actually showing someone asking for and giving directions in a video format. For stimulus, now when we think about video as a stimulus, student engagement is the first thing that comes to mind, and that's true. Video is a fantastic way to grab students' attention, but it can also be highly effective as a springboard for teachers. So you can use it to help reticent students generate ideas for writing or speaking tasks, to elicit reactions and opinions, or to lead in to and introduce a topic that they'll be working with in their student book. And you can even turn the sound off and use nonverbal video to spur creativity in language production by having students, for example, describe what's happening or describe what they're seeing, narrate or re-narrate a story, retell a story after watching it to practice narrative tenses, for example, or speculate about what's going to happen next. And YouTube has no shortage of dramatic attention-getting videos. that you can use to stimulate conversation, stimulate activities. The final square in Willis's box is video as a resource. And by this, we mean that video is a source of information. This is very common in CLIL classes, of course, where students are learning about a topic in English. And it's also very good for project-based work. Video is also an asset to flipped classrooms, where students typically access content before class and then spend time in class on communicative or task-based activities, which for most people brings to mind the Khan Academy. Now, videos like these can be used as fully online and self-accessed or as resources for a flipped classroom. This is nothing new, of course. Flipped classrooms, they've been around for decades now. What's new is the sheer volume of video content that's now available, often free of charge to teachers and students, which brings us to the biggest repository of video content, and that's YouTube. Now, here are a few quick stats on YouTube, and these are from 2019. 300 hours of video uploaded every minute. 5 billion videos watched every day. 50% of the views come from mobile devices. So obviously there's a huge amount of content, and you can find that content in the genres and on topics that students like and that students need to learn about. Videos from YouTube tend to contain authentic language, which is lovely. It's a wonderful thing. And almost all of it is free. So it's amazing how much video is available to use. But this volume of content has its drawbacks. YouTube is owned by Google, and therefore it has its own agenda. It's most interested in popularity and ad revenue. And that means that your search will not necessarily be based on educational quality. That you have to figure out for yourself. Even using a filter doesn't guarantee that you'll get the results you need. And then there are problems related to content. Any video that you might find on YouTube has to be previewed all the way to the end to make sure that it's appropriate all the way to the end. When you play it in class, excuse me, you have to be careful about what's next in the queue, because you know how on YouTube, when you watch something, there's another video that's automatically loaded behind it. One of our editors tells a story that she was teaching a class to 12-year-old boys, and she played the video, and it was wonderful, and they started to talk about it, and all of a sudden a girl in a bikini comes on because that was the next video in the queue, and all attention in the classroom just went out the window. Also, sometimes you get something political that's delicate, etc. Anyway, you have to be very careful about monitoring the queue as well as the video. Then, of course, if you're going to send the students a link to the video, you have to preview all the comments that come after the video that are part of the video, because they could have sensitive or inappropriate material in them. And then if you're going to try to use it for other purposes, like to put it on the school's website or create a resource to share with other teachers, you have to be very careful about permissions. So there are lots of potential pitfalls with YouTube video. When searching for video, it's a big help to have clear criteria in your own mind. Some boxes that you can check so that you don't get distracted by something that looks great, but then when you go to use it, it's not really that great to use. So, though your class or your institution may have more specific needs, there are 4 fairly universal criteria that can help you focus your search and also help you dismiss content quickly, which is also important. Video content should be appropriate, and that means risk-free and surprise-free. Content that's right for the student's language level and their age group, their culture. It can't contain anything that could, let's say, disturb or disrupt the classroom. Video material should have some connection to the student's course book or their coursework so that the time spent with the video content is perceived as worthwhile. and that the video will help students with the immediate need of understanding a particular language lesson or grammar point or vocabulary set, but it will also build their long-term language skills. Most teachers feel strongly that video content used in class needs to be supported with activities, typically worksheets, exercises, perhaps interactive activities or exercises. Now, ideally, these support materials would be provided for you, but YouTube isn't going to do that. So as you review a video for possible classroom use, think about how easily or cleanly you could create a worksheet on the material and what types of activities you could have students do based on this material or using it as a model. I encourage you to write down these ideas and build your own library of ideas that you can draw on for other videos also. And of course, video content needs to engage students by being interesting, but more importantly, it needs to act as a vehicle to empower students to produce language. I think this is video's greatest asset, empowerment. When a student can watch a video and at the end honestly say that they understood it, maybe not every word, but they understood it, they feel triumphant and they want more of that feeling, which means that they're motivated to learn and to take learning further. So you have your criteria. Now you have to find video content to match the criteria, which means YouTube. Students love video, they've come to expect video, but even with clear criteria in mind, wading through YouTube for hours and hours to find the right stuff can feel overwhelming. The good news is publishers know this. Every publisher is trying hard to come up with ways to help teachers address the challenges of integrating video into their lessons, including Cambridge. The team I work on has launched a new course called Evolve that I'm proud to say approaches video in a kind of unique and really exciting way. And we feel sure that it's going to set the standard for the video component of any new course. And teachers have a right to demand video now because this is what students expect. It works well. There's enough of it out there. You have every right to expect a good video program. So I'll tell you a little bit about Evolve because I'm going to use it to show you how one publisher, Cambridge, is taking this on. Evolve is a general English course, and it is meant for young adults, and it takes them from beginner to advanced, so from A1 level to C1 level. It covers grammar, vocabulary, listening, writing, as every good book does, and it really emphasizes speaking as the key to student confidence and student fluency. And that's an approach fully supported with video. Now, I could give you a long list of the wonderful features found in Evolve, but I'll control myself and I'll just stick to the video. Evolve has a lot of it. It has a lot of video and a wide range of video formats and contexts, giving teachers lots of opportunities to incorporate video into their lessons before, during, and after class. We'll take a little look. First, Evolve has scripted drama, a scripted drama series. Scripted dramas are great for several reasons. They're popular with students because it's a familiar format. Everybody has a favorite TV show. They can hear informal spoken language in a natural context, but because it's scripted, the language level can be tightly controlled. So students get that feeling of accomplishment when they understand the dialogue. Each episode is thematically related to the unit in the student book, and the target language from that unit is used in the dialogue. So that reinforces what they're learning in the student book. We also have a video resource book with activities and exercises for teachers to work with students on or to assign. And referring back to Willis's framework for using video in the classroom, scripted drama series, videos like these are great to use for listening skills practice, but also to review language points and as a stimulus for speaking. Now, Evolve also has documentaries. This is curated real-world content with level-appropriate voiceover narration. Now, again, these are thematically linked to the unit in the student book, and target language is used. Documentaries are interesting for students because they bring the outside world into the classroom, and they give students examples of more formal spoken language, so they encounter different registers from the earliest levels. In the Willis framework, these offer skills practice, but are also a resource of information and can be used as a stimulus for speaking or writing tasks. Also for synthesis activities for test prep. The video resource book also supports the documentaries with exercises and activities. Evolve also includes on-the-street interviews with real people filmed in various locations around New York City. And this was a fun project to work on. We were all over the city, in Brooklyn, Battery Park, all over the place, interviewing real people, just stopping them on the street, asking them a question that's from the student book, and then getting their answers, which then students can reference and have as a model for speaking, etc. You won't be able to hear the audio, unfortunately, but these have subtitles, so you can get the idea. I'll play it. Whoops, sorry. I'll play it for you. So that's a question that the students see in the student book, and then we asked people on the street and got their answers, and then there are interactive activities associated with it. This is authentic language, unscripted and unrehearsed from real people. And some of the people are non-native English speakers, so students hear accented English from the very beginning. And they can see that you can express yourself in English and be understood, even if you have an accent, even if your English isn't perfect, which is very empowering. All the questions are thematically linked, and there are 2 or 3 of these for every unit throughout the course, even at the lowest levels. Students access them as part of the online practice module, which has interactive activities for each one. Now, these interviews address all 4 areas of the Willis framework. They're language focus, skills practice, stimulus, and resource. But we include one other type of video in the Evolve course, which I'm really excited about, and that is the real student videos. So these people that you see are the A2 level winners of a speaking topics competition that we held for students all over the world. Over 2,000 students responded. They gave us great ideas, and we've incorporated those into the Evolve course book. Now, that happens a lot where they interview students to see what sorts of topics they like, but the difference here is that the winners themselves are featured in short videos throughout the book, answering the same questions that students are encountering in their student's book. So they might answer a discussion question like, oh, where did you go last on your last vacation? Or what kinds of things do you spend money on? Or they might be asked their opinion, like, are you a busy person? Why? What's the best gift for a friend or a teacher or a boss? I'll show you an example. Real student videos give teachers a very creative and controlled way to allow students to use their phones in class. Exactly, that's a constant battle. Some teachers absolutely refuse to have them use it, but some teachers feel like we need to embrace that. They have them, let's try to use them. So in this case, when instructed, students use the QR code that's printed in the book, and you can do this yourself right now. If you have a phone handy, go ahead and give it a shot. They use the QR code to access a short video clip of the real student answering the same question that they will answer in class. So they do the QR code, and again, you won't be able to hear the audio, but I'll play it so just so you can see it. This is Irene from level 2 of Evolve, which is A2 English level. She's one of the many near-peer role models in the Evolve series. In case that term is new to you, near-peer means a person of similar characteristics to the students, age, language level, even national background. The idea is that watching someone like Irene, a student just like themselves, speak comfortably and competently, but not perfectly, gives students the permission they need to try it for themselves. So students see and hear another student answer the question, which they can use as a model, and they can also get ideas for their own answers, and then they can compare their own answers to the real students' answers in the video. Nice discussion there. At the higher levels, the real students are now expert speakers. These are real people from all over the world who live and work in New York, speaking English most of the time. And again, feel free to access the video with the QR code to hear it for yourself. I'll play it just so you can see it. So seeing someone like Joao, whose English is not perfect, express himself comfortably and confidently is extremely empowering, not only because they aren't native speakers, but because they have achieved an academic or a professional goal that the students themselves are working towards. So they see that guy can do it, so can I. It's very empowering. Okay. The real student and expert speaker videos sometimes empower students to do more than speak. Often students want to create videos too, and this is great. It's just a fun activity in class. Students are comfortable with it. Why not use it? Evolve supports this desire too, giving suggestions in the teacher's edition and crafting activities that could be easily done with video as part of the framework. The Willis framework supports video creation as well. When students become the creators of video content rather than just watching and responding, it opens up all kinds of new opportunities for engagement and stimulus, but also the practice of skills that are adjacent to language learning, such as creativity, digital literacy, and collaboration, such as task-based activities and projects, and those are a fundamental part of the Evolve course. So if you're interested in exploring this in more detail, there are plenty of online references and enthusiastic advocates on social media. ICT Evangelist, a man named Mark Anderson, is a good place to start. One idea he has is to have small teams of students create a short video presentation to explain a grammar point to other students, being as creative as they like with the video. And this is a fantastic way to get them to engage with the language that they're learning. And as you know, having to explain or illustrate a grammar point requires an excellent understanding of how and when to use it. So students are motivated to do some independent research to make sure that they're getting it right because they're teaching it to others. It's like the old med school model of see one, do one, teach one, that once they have to teach it, then they really, really know it. Some other useful resources can be found at Cambridge's World of Better Learning blog. Here, for example, is a post from Ben Goldstein on the value of using video with screenagers, which is a term I just absolutely love, screenagers. And you can find this and lots of other articles at the regular address, that's at cambridge.org/ELT/blog, or the dedicated page that Drew mentioned at the beginning of this talk, which is the Supporting Every Teacher page. That's particularly well suited to teachers who are teaching online right now because of social isolation. And of course, Cambridge has printed books for teachers. We have a huge collection of professional development materials, like the Goldstein and Driver book mentioned earlier. We have courses like Evolve with innovative use of video built right in and supported very well through the Teacher's Edition with lots of ideas and suggestions. And then freely available research papers from our language research team. That's a wonderful resource. And if you're interested in more research papers on this or other topics, you can find a whole library at the Better Learning Insights webpage. And that's under pedagogy, or you can go there directly at that address, the cambridge.org/pedagogy. Okay. So I hope this has inspired you to take a fresh look at how you use video in the classroom and perhaps spend a little time trawling YouTube for content, or spending less time trawling YouTube for content. Remember, your students and their phones are a great resource, and they're attached to them so you can use them in the language classroom and have really effective video classes, both receptively watching video and productively creating video. Okay, so let's move on. Do you have any questions? Let me see. I'm trying to. Okay. Okay, I
Thank you for
definitely.
the presentation, Dena. While we wait for the questions to come in, I just want to remind everyone that this webinar has been recorded, and the link to the recording, along with a link to download your certificate of attendance, will be emailed to you in about 1 to 2 weeks. Let's see if we have any questions. We had one earlier that says, could you explain what you mean by authentic language?
Authentic language, I'm trying to remember what context that was in. I believe it was the interviews or perhaps the documentaries. The interviews, it means that it's unrehearsed, it's unscripted and unrehearsed. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that it isn't prepared. So, for example, narration, which might be prepared for a particular purpose, but it's not prepared for an ESL purpose, for an English language teaching purpose. This is something that was authentically created for that documentary, or in the case of the interviews, at the lower levels, when we got the responses from the people on the street, we asked them the question, we had them give us their answer, and of course, the first time you answer any question, you stumble a bit and you search for things. So we asked it, said, okay, now that you've gone through it once, could you say your answer again, just a little more smoothly for our students? And they were happy to do that. And if some of their language choices were above level, then we'd ask them to rephrase and suggest a language point or word that would be more accessible to students at a lower level, and they would do it again. But it was all their ideas, their speaking, and a natural use of the language. Even if we had to coach them a little bit at the higher levels, we didn't have to do that at all. It was all completely authentic, and we just had them do it a couple of times just for smoothness. But it's so empowering for students to understand real language coming out of someone's mouth. It just makes them feel so triumphant. I remember my own students saying, oh, someone asked me for directions in the town yesterday, and I helped him. I could give him directions. They were so pleased with themselves, and that was my best student from then on. Did that answer the question?
I think so. That was
Okay.
a good explanation. All right, we have another question asking for any suggestions on how to engage older adult students with video. My older students tend to do better with written text.
You know, I think for older students, it's a matter of familiarity. Younger students are just used to having video as part of their experience. But there's so much video out there. You can definitely get something that appeals to older people as well. Maybe it's more serious. Maybe it isn't as light or entertaining. Maybe it's a companion piece, and this would be part of the idea of synthesis. So if you got a very short clip on some topic and then also gave them a reading on that same topic, I would do the reading first so that some of that vocabulary and the concepts get into their heads, and then watch a short video clip on it that perhaps has additional information or different information, and then ask them to synthesize those two things, which is a higher level skill, but can be done at lower levels also. If you have a little information here and a little information there, you put it together. And that is a key soft skill, as we say, that, you know, something that you use in life, in any occupation, in any context. You have to synthesize information from different sources. So I think video is an excellent way to practice that skill, and it's extremely relevant to people who are already in the work world.
Right, great, thank you. We have some Evolve specific questions. I'm going to try to group it into one. What age group is most appropriate for Evolve, and what can you recap the types of videos that is available for the course and where it's available, and types of activities that can be done with those videos?
Sure. First of all, Evolve is meant for young adults and adults. We've seen in some instances it's being used with kids as young as 14. I think that's pushing it a little bit. That's probably a little sophisticated for 14-year-olds, but some teachers like it. They find it aspirational for them, and they don't have any problem with it. We had about 18 to 25 in mind as we developed the course. There are, gosh, in all, let me see, there's scripted dramas, and those are at the lower levels, at levels 1 through 4. The documentaries go from level 1 through 4, maybe 1 through 6. I'd have to check on that. I can't remember. And then we have the man on the street interviews, and those are on all levels, and that's in their online module, the homework module. And then we have the real student and the expert speaker videos, which are in the books themselves, accessed through QR codes. So that's 4 different types of video. And the resource book, the video resource book, has material for the first 2, the scripted drama and the documentaries. The man on the street interviews, the activities for that are built in. So as students watch the videos in their modules in the online homework environment, there are questions attached to it and activities attached to it. The real student and expert speaker videos, there are activities around it in the student book. So they encounter those as they encounter the material, the same material in the student's book. So the question that's in the student's book is also the question being answered by the real student. So they have a model for that immediately. And some other activities you can do with that, like anticipating or comparing your answer to that person. How is your answer different? How is your answer the same? In the teacher's book, there are lots of suggestions for how to use video in the classroom, how to take it a step further. The student book also has, this isn't exactly video related, but it can be. Many of the activities have a little icon beside it that is a phone, a mobile phone. So many of the activities have the option, it isn't required, but there's the option of going online to find more information, or going online to find a picture, or going online to find a story about something, or a song, something that would add to the richness of the activity that the students are doing. So we have them using their phones if the teacher wants. The student has opportunities to use their phone in the course of coursework. So while they're dealing with the information in the student's book, they can go online, and that's a way that teachers can have the students using their phone on their phone, but to good purpose and for purposes that serve language learning, rather than having them sneaking, looking under the desk, looking at their phone under the desk, not paying attention to class. So we figure it's, if you can't conquer your enemy, you bring him on board. And that's what we're doing. We're embracing phones rather than trying to eliminate them, because we feel like that's impossible.
Great, thank you. I'm trying to see what other questions are coming in. I think we have time for one more. Right, could you talk a little bit more about the use of smartphones in the classroom if you're asking students to access videos?
Yeah, I addressed that just, in this last question a little bit, but we think it's inevitable that students are going to use their phones, they're going to want to use their phones, so we may as well give them good opportunity to use the phone and make it serve our purpose as well, which is teaching English. So there's never a time in the student book where you must use a smartphone or you must have access to online material. You don't, because some facilities and some institutions just don't, and some teachers don't want to use it, and that's fine. The book stands on its own. Everything can be done without that. If you want to include that or include some of it, you can pick and choose. You can take the suggestions that are given there, like, draw a picture or find a picture online that illustrates this point. So students can draw it right there in the class, or they can go online and find it. All this depends, of course, on Wi-Fi access, et cetera, and school policy and how young the students are. It's completely up to the teacher. But our aim is to give that teacher good, controlled, effective ways to use smartphones in the classroom and have students benefit from that in terms of language learning.
Great. Thank you, Dena. We have a whole slew of questions that are product evolve based, which I don't know that we have time to address all of them. If you could go to the Evolve website, the URL I typed into the chat, it's cambridge.org/evolve. You'll find more information about videos as well as the actual course itself. And also you'll find sample units that you can check out. And if you are looking for desk copies, please contact your local Cambridge ELT specialist or distributor or office.
I can go back to that slide that has the QR code for the real student video if someone would like that. Let me just.
Yeah, no, that would be great. So as I typed in the chat when Dena was presenting that video, and I know the sound for the video didn't come through. If you want to watch it later, you can scan the code that's on your screen right now with your phone, and it should pop up a prompt in your phone asking you to open Internet Explorer or the browser of your choice, and you can view and stream the videos using your phone.